Hey guys, welcome back to the show this week. It's a little different. If you guys kind of remember on the post yesterday, Justin is working this week, working nights, and with the way the new job is lining up, I no longer work nights anymore, so we can't arrange these daytime shows because I'm on days now. So that's gonna take a little something to get used to and get over with, and as you can tell by my voice, I came down with a little something over the holiday break. It's typical if you guys have been following the show. Anytime I go on any kind of trip or vacation since 2022, I've gotten some kind of ailment. New York in 2022, we went. I got COVID, um, and then this past February, I went to Tampa. Ended up in the hospital for 2 days. And then I don't know. It just seems like anytime I go somewhere, I'm getting sick. And I got sick on Thanksgiving night as we were heading up to San Antonio. If you guys have never traveled on Thanksgiving Day, um, it's glorious. There's no traffic on the road. There's nothing. I think we made it to San Antonio in like an hour. I'm exaggerating, but uh, so there was that, right? Um, so it was an eventful week, and I'm still kind of getting over whatever it is that I got. I think they said it was an upper respiratory infection. Uh, so my wife actually wants me to keep this voice, whatever that's worth. Um, but our Thanksgiving was great. Justin's was great. I talked to Justin earlier in the week. His was pretty good, pretty low key. We were kind of keeping up with all the college football moves and everything with A&M's hire and their higher but not higher of Mark Stoops, and then their move, they're pulling the trigger with Mike Elko. So that was pretty interesting. So that's gonna shape up pretty neat next year for the SEC and Texas coming back in. One of the things I wanted to talk about before we jumped in, it was kind of some buffoonery. Every year on our page, we put up this dumb picture, right? And it's of that deep fryer in the kitchen, right? And every year we put it up and say, "Hey, we can't ready to fry this thing," right? And dude, this one took off this year. Um, People are still commenting on it now, calling us idiots, thinking we're really gonna light or deep fry a turkey in our kitchen. I couldn't believe it. I kept laughing. It was funny for a while, and then it just got old. Getting the notifications over and over and over and over again. Uh, but it's hard to believe how many people take this kind of stuff seriously. Now, I mean, it obviously it was meant for you guys, the followers of the page, and it kind of escaped out of the room and went everywhere, and then people were just like, "Oh my god!" And then it was, yeah, whatever. It is what it is. Um, but today, so with Justin not being here, I went out and reached out to a couple of friends, see if they'd be interested in coming on to kind of help out this week. And fortunately, I got a out of the three that I asked, I got two good responses. The third was kind of caught in the middle of everything. So I got back to they got back to me real late. But we'll start off with our first guest here, and it's Quinton Martinez from the Corpus Christi Caller-Times. Quinton, how are you doing, bud?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing today, Jacob? It's good to see you.
Man, other than under the weather, pretty good, man. I'm kind of bouncing back from whatever this respiratory infection is that I've got, but we're doing good, man. We're doing good. So you guys who aren't familiar, who aren't from the area, who don't follow the Caller Times or aren't on Twitter, Quentin is one of the main sports guys there at the Caller Times, and he's very plugged in with what's going on with all the teams in the area, and even in West Texas. I think you're still plugged in out there, aren't you? With everything that's going on out there.
Yeah, just a bit. I spent a long time in El Paso. I went to school out there. I'm from El Paso, and on top of that, I spent more than 6 years in San Angelo. So I have a lot of knowledge of what's going on back there as well. So in Region One. So yeah, I mean, I feel like I have a pretty good base for a lot of corners of the state.
So Quentin was like I said, gracious enough he answered back really quick to come on the show because like we said, so our plans for Friday kind of got messed up, right? Justin had to work the next day. I had to originally had Thanksgiving. We were going to celebrate it on Friday, so I didn't plan to go any games. And then that moved to Thursday, and then we went Thursday. So I ended up heading out to the Ingleside game on Friday, and I was sick. and I probably made it worse by being at that game. But Quinton stuck around here, and you didn't make it to the Port Lavaca game, did you? You just went to the Miller Vet or the Miller West game, right?
Yeah. Miller West was my only assignment last week. Nice to get to Thanksgiving weekend and have a game in town, so I didn't have to
Yeah,
travel. So, but I mean, that was watching that game was enough for me this weekend. I don't know if I could have made it to a second or third game after how the way that one that one ended up going out and going down. Uh, it's funny. I think a lot of people thought 52-45 the first time. Maybe West was kind of scoring late to kind of keep it closer than it really was. And then you watched it again last week, and again Victoria West right there. I mean, the margins, the difference between that team and Miller were razor thin. There's just a few things here or there, and that easily, you could really easily be looking at Miller being done right now. But it's not the way it played out.
it looked
Miller
that
found
way,
a
right? I
Miller
mean,
found
it
a way to
looked that
win the
way.
game. Yeah, it definitely did. I think there were a couple turning points in that game for me. One, Miller scored, and they were kind of keeping it around 10 points for a good chunk of the second half. I think West had jumped ahead, and then Miller scored, did a surprise onside kick, scored again, and got back up. It got in the lead, and then built it back up to 10. And then there was an offside on the extra point. It had already gone through, but they took the point off the board, and they said, "Hey, we're from the 1.5-yard line. We're going to go for 2." They get stuffed on the 2-point try, and all of a sudden it's a 9-point game. And I'm thinking to myself, as anybody who's watched a lot of football, man, that point that can come back to haunt them. And at the very end, it was surprising to me. Victoria West was inside the 5-yard line and could have kicked the go-ahead field goal and on fourth down, but they decided to go for it, and they luckily got the 2-point conversion. I mean, the touchdown. Didn't get the 2-point conversion, but if they would have been stuffed right there, the game would have been over then and there. But they scored the touchdown. They only gave Miller a minute to go, and but as you found out, that's enough for Miller. They went down there. Trevor Long, 2-minute offense, just absolutely perfectly out of bounds, get a penalty, and then once you're inside the 10-yard line, it wasn't very much. It almost felt like a formality. Corey Holmes just has a way of getting open, and he did again, and that was the game.
Yeah, big catch, Corey. What was it like when Vets or when West took the lead, when it looked like it was done, right? I mean, yeah, Miller can score pretty quick. I don't think they had to do that this year though. So nobody had really seen if it could be done with this team. So I mean, what was the mood like when they took that lead, that last lead that West had?
Well, I will say this: even before West scored the touchdown, there were people leaving. There were people leaving the game. Like, West was milking clock. They had gotten into the 20, 30-yard line. And, I was even talking with Gabe from the Victoria Advocate, and we're looking across the way. And I'm like, I mean, I get maybe you're trying to beat traffic or whatever, but people were leaving from the Miller side. And I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. There's still plenty of time, and I'm thinking to myself, what ended up happening is a lot of people pooled right there, close to the locker rooms, and kind of stayed on the track, on the fence right there, and watched the rest of the game. But it looked like people were coming out into the game, and I'm like, man, I can't imagine the people are actually leaving. But yeah, it was a weird feeling because, especially at home, like, nobody had even come close to Miller almost all season long. I mean, the closest game they had played, other than the West game, was 19 points, and that was against Veterans Memorial. So they weren't having to make key plays in the fourth quarter pretty much the entire season. So it was a weird feeling, but at the same time, like, I don't know that, like, I'm thinking to myself, 57 seconds, like 20 seconds, that's a different animal. But 57 seconds, the clock stops when you get a first down anyway. You can get out of bounds. It was pretty easy. There really wasn't a moment on that last drive where you were like, oh man, they're up against it. This is a tough play. Miller just kind of went down and found it. And a key part of that drive also was Ethan Vela. He had like a return to the 40-yard line, and he was big in the return game almost all game. And I think a lot of people have this mindset that Miller is not as good as they could be on special teams, is not as good as they could be on defense. But I feel like this is by far the most complete Miller team I've seen since I've been here covering it, since Justin Evans has taken over that program. They're better defensively. They do some good things on the special teams. I think they've recovered an onside kick, or at least I think the one against Edinburgh Vela ended up going back because they were called offsides, but they'd kicked and recovered an onside kick like in 4 of the last 5 games going into the regular season. I mean, they're doing things right in special teams that can make a difference. It's by far the most complete team that they've had since Coach Evans has been there. And I think it's part of the reason why you see them. You know, they'd never even been 13-0. They have 2 state titles to their credit, and they had never been 13-0 before this year.
So did you so we're talking about their next opponent. Did you cover, or was that Ray that covered the Vets game?
Ray was at Vets versus Brownsville Veterans Memorial. I know in talking to him that he was not really that impressed with Brownsville Veterans Memorial. You know, and once he saw that score, you know, he's like, man, Miller's going to be favored in the game next week. And it's in the Valley. You know, I don't know. I think once you get to the regional final, with rare exception, I think any game is a coin flip. You know, in some cases it's not really, but like, you know, I don't know if I'm ready to just sit there and say that everybody should expect one team to romp over the other. But, you know, he seemed to insinuate to me that he didn't think Brownsville Veterans Memorial was extremely impressive watching them play against Veterans Memorial. But I mean, it's something to be said that they had held Vets to 7 points. I know Vets was dealing with some injuries, and they maybe weren't the team in the last month of the season and into the playoffs that they were through like weeks 4 through week 7 or week 8. But still, it's impressive they were able to hold them down to that. And Brownsville Vets has forced some turnovers in the last 3 or 4 weeks. It's been a big part of the reason why they were able to run all over. I think they played. I'm trying to remember who they played. Maybe it was Victoria. No, I'm not sure. I don't want to claim that I know. But the last couple of weeks, I know they forced some turnovers, especially last week against PSJ A North. They forced some turnovers. They didn't beat themselves, you know, and they threw the ball a lot more than I think a lot of people were expecting with that option offense.
They played McAllen week 1 and won that one 55-21. And then they beat Vet 17-7. And then they beat PSJ North 45-28. Yeah. The surprise, I think the surprise out of there, and I asked one of the dads that we talked to from Vets was the way that Brownsville threw the ball against again. I mean, they didn't light the world on fire. I think they threw 9 passes total and completed 5, and one of those was even like a halfback pass.
Exactly.
So it wasn't a lot, but I mean, the receivers weren't wide open. The receivers made great plays from the first half video that I saw of that Vets North game.
I went and I looked at the YouTube. If you search it, I think the Far San Juan Alamo School District has like the YouTube feed, just like CCIC does, just like Flower Bluff and some of those other districts. They have the YouTube feed of the game, and you can go back and watch. And I watched a lot of it, and there's a little bit of a chunk of it missing from the first half, but you know, it's really interesting because PSJ North hurt themselves. They had, I think, over 100 yards in penalties. That's one thing. And Brownsville Vets, at least, you know, I think I stopped watching partway through the fourth quarter, but I don't think Brownsville Vets had been even flagged in that game. Maybe it was offsetting penalties, but I mean, I don't know that there was anything crazy. So Brownsville Vets didn't beat themselves, didn't get out of, you know, when you run those type of offenses, down and distance can kill you. You even have pre-snap penalties. First and 15 is tough to overcome, and they never hurt themselves. They threw the ball enough to be effective. And I thought, to me, in watching it, the place where the game completely got away from PSJ North, they blocked a punt on Brownsville Vets' first drive of the second half. And I think the punter or one of the blockers picked up the ball and was trying to run just to get as many yards as they could because they were in the shadow of their own end zone. And PSJ North is called for a face mask. And they give them the 15 yards on the first down after they had blocked the punt. Next thing you know, Brownsville Vets goes like on a 7-8 minute drive, punches it in, goes the length of the field. And now all of a sudden, instead of 31-14, it's 38-14, and there's only a couple minutes left in the third quarter. And at that point, with the offense PSJ North runs, even as explosive as they can be, that's a tough call. And it was never really into it after that. You know, I know a lot of people were talking about Ale Aparicio. He got hit early a couple times, and he was short hopping a lot of throws. So I don't know how much that hurt them, but
Yeah.
I don't think at the end of the day they really want to be throwing the ball that much anyway. They
Yeah.
run to set up the pass, but they were in a situation where they had to pass, and he was having a hard time. I know he missed a good chunk of the season because of injury, so I'm not
Yeah.
sure if he ever got to 100% or what his situation was. But I don't think anybody, I don't know. I don't think there was a single person that maybe that other than Charger parents and the teams that really thought that Brownsville Vets A could win that game, but B could win it going away. I mean, that was just a total shock, total surprise. And I remember talking to people and hearing about the flip situations, and that knowing that Miller was going to have to go to the Valley one way or the other. But at the end of the day, like, I wasn't really thinking like, oh, well, Brownsville Vets is the team that they're going to have to go to Brownsville. I just
I mean,
didn't really creep into your mind that PSG North was going to lose.
yeah,
They'd given
everybody
up
thought it was. Yeah, everybody thought
42
they were going to
points.
far.
He'd given up 42, 45 points all season long, and all of a sudden they give up the 45 against Brownsville Vets last week.
Yeah.
So it's just you just never know. You have to be on your A game, and I think this is one of those things that is a learning lesson. I'm sure that Justin Evans is telling his team. I guarantee that Jason Herring is telling his team in Refugio as well. Like, you can think all you want about you're the favorite or whatever, but on any given Friday night, you don't know what's going to happen. If you don't come focused and ready, you can get beat, especially 4 rounds deep into the playoffs. So, I think it'd be something that, PSG North got bit, but, there will be teams that learn from it.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it this week if you looked at some of the scores around the state. Smithson Valley taking down College Station last week. I don't think a lot of folks saw that happening. I think everybody automatically thought College Station was going to make it to the state championship again. And then you got that Piper team taking down Alamo Heights. A lot of folks in the San Antonio area didn't think that Piper team was going to beat Alamo Heights. They thought Alamo Heights was a shoo-in.
I think talking to GP coaches, they felt that Piper was the best team in the region.
Really?
So I think they told me going into the postseason that they thought Piper was the team to beat in Region 4.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, saying that, of course, I mean, Flower Bluff obviously had some really good opportunities. It just, Liberty Hill is one of those weird matchups for them. It's the same way that, you wouldn't think on paper, knowing how the season turned out, that Cal Allen would have beaten Flower Bluff and done it as convincingly as they did. But that was the way. And Liberty Hill is just one of those teams that at least right now seems to really have Flower Bluff's number.
Yeah, and again, it was going back and forth in that game. I was supposed to go to that game that night. We were in San Antonio. We were there to go to the game, and man, that illness it got me. I could not. I was dead after that Ingleside game. My plan was go back, go take a shower, nice hot shower. Got about 3-hour window and head back. I got to the room, took a shower. I couldn't leave. I couldn't leave the room again, man. So I missed it. So I was keeping up with it with the buddy of mine who was there at the game, and he's just kind of telling me what's happening. And it was back and forth up until, and then I don't know what happened in the second half. I have no idea what happened in that second half. How it just Flower Bluff couldn't score anymore.
It's just one of those things where, in a game like that, I thought going in that the team that makes a stop, all of a sudden the team that makes the other team chase. If it gets to two scores or 3 scores even, like, it's going to be tough because it's going to be punch, 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 punch. And Flower Bluff needed to be the team to make that stop, to be able to really feel like they were in a situation to make Liberty Hill chase. But even saying that, I said that PSG North isn't capable of wasn't capable of overcoming that big deficit. But Liberty Hill, man, just with the way they run that offense and how quickly they can score, even though that's a team that you think, even with the way they run the ball, they can come back. But still, like, Flower Bluff, I think in order to win that game, they needed to get ahead. They needed to get a couple of scores up and really make Liberty Hill chase them to feel like they had a good chance, because if they got stopped once, it was going to be tough for them.
And that's what my folks were saying. It was like, if Flower Bluff could get a stop, they can take this game. And they just couldn't do it. They couldn't get any of those stops in the first half. They couldn't get that lead, like you're saying, and a comfortable lead. And like I said, and John Strubar is saying here that they just couldn't stop the slot team. They couldn't do it. They just ate up the bluff over the course of the game. I watched good chunks of it. Yeah, could not get the stop they needed. So you see Justin's checking in. I'm not going to say where he's at, but Justin's checking in here in the chat, guys. So he's here in spirit. So where are you going this week, Quinton?
Thursday night, I'm going to be in Victoria to cover Ganado and Refugio, and Friday I'll be at Sam's with the rest of the rest of Corpus
with
Christi's north
everybody,
side.
right?
Apparently,
All the and probably the state,
the
right?
entire
Most of
valley
the
is going to be
state.
there on the Brownsville side, and the whole north side is going to be there on the Miller side.
So they
I would
said,
advise people. I would advise people, based on I've been to Sam's for a couple of playoff games. There's not a lot of parking, and
no,
so
there's not. I
I
saw.
get there. I get there as early as you can and try to get parking, because otherwise you're going to be parking in the middle of a neighborhood because it's kind of in a residential area. So
Yeah, I was gonna pull the map up about it because I saw that somebody had posted a picture of it, and it was like, is this the only parking that's there? And see if I can pull it up real quick.
now the sweet thing is their their video board is even bigger than the one they have at Buck and Cabinets. It is huge.
Oh,
You
is
could
it?
probably see, even if you couldn't get into the game, you could probably find somewhere along the fence line outside of the stadium and still see it. I mean, it's just absolutely gigantic.
Somebody said they're supposed to. What did that just say? They're supposed to shuttle from Amigo Land Mall. I don't know if the people from out of town know that, Mike. Maybe the local folks will know that. So here we go. Here it is. Let me pull this up real quick. Let me share my screen.
That might be something that eventually gets shared by Coach Evans and CCISD, if that's going to be the case.
So there's your parking lot right there. You got that one there, and you may have no, that's the stands. So there's your parking lot. So that's what you're dealing with here as far as parking. It's essentially, if you think about it, it's like Buck Stadium, because Buck Stadium has no parking other than what's in front. And if you're not parking in front, you're parking in the neighborhoods. So expect that kind of parking atmosphere there. Where that Amigo Land Mall is, I have no idea. Tickets went on sale today. I've already seen some posts in some of these Valley groups that I'm in that it's sold. Some, like, the reserve section's already sold out. So on the left is a new parking area on the visitor side. Oh, okay, Mike. We'll take that there's not a lot. But as far as where I'm planning on going to Refugio Thursday night, I'm gonna miss Friday night's game. I have a company function that night. I was hoping a lot of these region final games would be played on Saturday. That was just wishful thinking on my part. So I'll make it out to the Refugio game. And I think that's pretty much it for my week. So I'll see you out there Thursday night, and then we can kind of. Are you going to be in the box? Or are you going to be on the ground?
I'm probably going to end up being on the ground. I don't know. I'm not sure how much media is going to be up in the box. I know Victoria is going to be there with a couple staffers, Mike Foreman, and I think their newer guy Gabe is also going to be there. But not quite sure exactly. We'll see how it plays out once I get there on Thursday. I don't think it's going to be quite as crowded as the game in the Valley is going to be on Friday night. But
yeah,
it's interesting. I think of the three games, I think the one team that feels like the real decisive favorite is Refugio over Ganado. That you've already seen it once this year, and I can't see Refugio overlooking this team. They know what it's like to lose in the regional final. They did it twice in a row to Shiner. I don't think I can't see this team doing that. So I feel pretty confident that they're going to be on the positive side of things. And the way Sinton is playing, I know Wimberley is experienced. The way Sinton is playing right now, I mean, they're hitting their stride about as good as anybody that you can think of right now. So, I mean, I think I felt looking at the playoff bracket, the way it shook out, that there was a very good chance that Wimberley was going to get 3 consecutive teams from the Corpus District, and that's exactly how it played out. They hit Orange Grove and they got him. They hit Ingleside and they got him, and now they have the district champ, Sinton. And I think it'll be interesting to see if if that revenge tour factor really plays out, because I know that they've played Wimberley recently. I know that they beat Lago this year after they had lost to Lago Vista last year.
Yep.
And now they beat Navarro. I mean, they whooped Navarro last week. So
yep.
I mean,
and we called that
team
just based on how Navarro did the week before. But you're right. I saw that Wimberley team last week, and they looked very good against Ingleside. There in the moment, they looked very good. But as I was going back looking at videos, some of the clips that I saw, their quarterback is a very good athlete. He's a very good athlete. Cody Stover is his name. Big kid, number 2, solid kid. He's a junior. Very good in his legs. He's an average thrower. He missed a lot of wide open receivers. He wasn't under pressure a lot, and he was just throwing bad balls, like wounded duck balls. Sitton plays better defense than Ingleside does. That was proven. It was almost a similar game. If you look at that Sitton Ingleside game and that Ingleside Wimberley game, except the damage was done with the running back from Sitton and wide receiver and the quarterback, versus just that quarterback doing most of that damage from Wimberley. I think Sitton's got a very good chance in this Wimberley game. Just like you said, they're peaking right now. They're playing their best football right now. They figured out the offense. They figured out a way that works. And, man, a lot of folks are saying this is going to be a blowout in Wimberley. I don't see it. I do not see a blowout coming this game.
I mean, if it was going to be a blowout, I would say it would be a blowout Wimberley. I find a hard time thinking Sitton's going to run away with anything. Well, I mean, I think Wimberley is the favorite, and deservedly so. They've done enough to be that top dog in the region over the last several years. They've made it to the state championship game, and they played for it all. They've won so many playoff games; it's hard to discount that. But at the same time, you can't underestimate the way Sinton's playing right now. So Wimberley is the favorite. I don't think there's a question about that.
They are the favorite.
But I don't think that Sinton doesn't look like they're going to be overwhelmed. They could be at the end of the day, but it doesn't feel like Wimberley's just going to go in and run away with it. I feel like that's going to be a competitive game.
Yeah, I think so too. Quinton, you don't got anywhere to go, do you? You got to go?
No, I can hang.
Okay, so we've got another guest coming in. He's checking in now. I told you I had to get an all-star cast here to fill in for our guy Spud. So it takes two to fill in for one guy here. Our next guy in the room, some of you guys may know, is Matt Stepp from Dave Campbell, Texas Football. How you doing, Matt?
Jacob, what's up, man? Q, how are y'all?
What's going on, Matt?
We're doing pretty good, man. A little under the weather. I don't know if you heard the first part of the show. I got sick.
Yeah, man, I heard, man.
Over the holidays, so
hope you get feeling better, dude.
I'm kind of recovering, but
it definitely takes two of us to replace my guy Justin. Man, it takes two, man. He's a monster.
It does. So we were just talking, Matt, about some of the things that happened over the weekend. What were some of the things that caught your eye over the weekend, outside of the obvious? Because I do want to talk about those, the Silsbee and Belleville game.
Yeah.
That one really caught me off guard.
Yeah. First off, I just talked to Brownsville ISD Athletic Director Gilbert Leal. He told me right now there's only 800 tickets left.
Okay, so see, it's almost sold out. Yeah.
Almost sold out, and it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday evening, so I imagine we're looking at a total sellout there at Sam's. I bet both bands will be sitting on the track for that.
I think they said that already. I think Coach Evans said that. I think Saturday. So yeah, the bands are going to be on the track. Yeah. It's all going to be for fans, and
it's going to be a fun atmosphere, man. It's going to be. I would love to be down there. I had plans to go down, and I couldn't make it materialize. But it's going to be a fun atmosphere Friday down in Brownsville. Q, are you going down there?
Yeah, I'm heading down there to the Valley.
Okay,
it's already one of those things where I think the same thinking. Even if PSJ North would have been there, the Valley is going to represent. They're going to rally around the team
big time.
They know what it means to be in the state semifinals and how rare that's happened. It's been since Port I believe, since the Valley's had a team make it this far. So, they know what it means, and everybody's gonna come out and represent and try to push the Chargers to a win against Miller.
Go eat at Vermilion in Brownsville. That's my spot, Vermilion or Mr. Taco.
I gotta write it down.
Vermilion or Mr. Taco.
So, man, I lost my train of thought. Y'all keep.
No, you were talking about Silsbee and Belleville.
So, yeah.
So before the playoffs, I thought Silsbee was going to win Region 3 in 4A Division 2, but after the first 2 weeks of the playoffs, I switched it, man. Belleville is a wagon right now, man. They are just rolling. They just 61-7 over Silsbee is incredible. They've got a defensive tackle that reminds me of Warren Sapp. He's a 4-star. He's 6'4", 290, runs like a 4.7 40. He's just a freak show, and he was just throwing Silsbee around like rag dolls. He's really good, and they run the slot T offense, and they've got fast athletes and big linemen running the slot T.
Yeah,
they're a problem. They're going to be a tough out. I think right now, if you're looking at me to pick a 4A state championship game in Division II, I'd say it's going to be Carthage and Belleville going at it.
So that was another shocker. Carthage getting by Pleasant Grove. They squeaked by Pleasant Grove, didn't they, last week? What was that score?
34-31. That was
34?
a war, man. Pleasant Grove is loaded. They've got, I think, 7 or 8 Division I recruits. Their quarterback's going to Arkansas. They got a running back going to Duke. The other running back's going to Oklahoma State. They've got a D tackle, D end who's committed to Arkansas as well, whose brother plays at Arkansas. They're loaded. Pleasant Grove is loaded. Okay. Carthage has more depth, and that was kind of the key. If you took the best 7 or 8 players, Pleasant Grove probably had the best 7 or 8 players. Carthage probably had the next best 30 players, though. So I think Carthage, their depth kind of wore them down. But it was a war. It was a knockdown, drag out war. It was a great ball. I watched a good portion of that game online Friday, and it was a war.
Yeah, because you were in San Antonio, right?
Yeah, I was in San Antonio. I did both triple headers, Friday and Saturday at the Dome. Most of the games there went about like I expected. The Piper Alamo Heights game was a really, really good ball game to close out the weekend. Piper's really good. I was really impressed with Piper. Their quarterback, Jake South, looked great. And they've got a little receiver named Isaiah Champagne who moved in from Louisiana, and he's a Cajun. Let me tell you, we talked to him post-game. He is Cajun, and he is really good. He had a huge game. Piper's got a good ball club. They've already beaten Liberty Hill once. It's tough to beat a team twice in the same year, but I think Piper has the material to do it.
That's what I've got. I've got Piper going, and what's impressive about them is they're a second-year program. I think it's a 3 years. The school's been open 3 years, and it's second year in varsity.
So there's 4. Here's the crazy stat. There's 4 second-year programs across the state that are still alive in the playoffs. There's 4 of them. There's Piper, there's Davenport, there's Frisco Emerson in Frisco, and then there's King and West Plains up in Amarillo. So there's 4 second-year programs still. And there was 2 others that got eliminated last week with Iowa Colony and there was one other Frisco Panther Creek. So the new programs in this realignment are doing really well, really quick.
Now, are we seeing open enrollment at some of these districts right now to kind of get the numbers up? So I asked that. That's what they did with Corpus Christi Vets here a few years ago when they opened up. And again, it's in the comments. I had saw on another thread somewhere about Davenport, and they said, well, wait till that open enrollment goes away. I mean, are you hearing any of that it's open enrollment?
I think it varies by district. Like I know in Frisco, they don't do open enrollment, but Frisco Panther Creek pulled from Frisco Lone Star, who's a very successful program and been successful. So they already had good players. West Plains and Canyon is a little bit differently because what's happened is because they're in the middle of a realignment cycle. West Plains is in 4A Division II, but they have 4A Division I numbers. They've got like 1,200 kids in the school right now. So they have a lot of depth. So I think it just varies by individual school district and how each district handles the opening of a new school, because each school district can kind of do things their own way.
Hey, Brants, we kind of already talked about Miller and Victoria. You're gonna have to go and get the rewatch on there, listen to it to the pod in the morning. But we're not gonna rehash that. I know you've asked. That's the second time you've asked that. But yeah. So some of the other things that caught my eye. Did you catch the Edna Vanderbilt game? Did you see any of that?
I didn't see any of it. I was kind of following it online, and I think it went kind of like a rivalry game would go, especially in the second meeting. Industrial gave them a good run. And Edna pulled it out late. So Edna kind of had that stumble against Goliad earlier in the year, and they kind of got things going. And in the playoffs, they beat Jourdanton bad week, 2 weeks ago, and then escaped Industrial. They'll have their hands full of Blanco, but I think Edna is the favorite. And I'll say this locally, Q, you probably kept up with this. I was really impressed with Sinton's performance against Navarro last week. That for Coach Troutman's ball club, that was really impressive because that's been kind of a hump that Sinton's hadn't gotten over in the past 3-4 years, and they kind of did it emphatically. That was a really impressive performance from Sinton. They seem to kind of be peaking at the right time.
I think that's exactly the phrase that we were using a little bit earlier, Matt. Is just that seems that's a team that's really put it together. I think Tristan Hansen probably would have been their starting quarterback last year. He got hurt in preseason week 1, and he never made it back. That was a big thing. So he's kind of like, now that he's 12, 13 games into the season, he's really kind of hitting his stride right now. He had He counted, I think, for 6 touchdowns last week, threw for over 300 yards. And when you get that kind of production to go along with a kid like Derek Garcia that's been running for 200 yards at a clip over the last 4 or 5 weeks, it's very reminiscent of what Miller's been able to find with Trevor Long and Broderick Taylor. It hasn't had to be one-sided with what Miller can do. It hasn't had to be one-sided with what Simpson can do. So, like, they really seem to be a team that is peaking at the right time. Wimberley's a little bit of a different task than Navarro,
Sure.
especially this season. But Simpson is playing really good right now.
And you can't forget to mention Jacoby James. That kid has stepped up his game a lot. And we started hearing his name towards the end of last season. But this year, he's been a huge playmaker for those guys. He's been a good asset to Tristan to help him kind of grow into the position this season, along with Derek. They're going to be tough, dude. They're a tough out, just like I was telling Quinton earlier. A lot of folks, if you go into any of these boards or whatever, they're saying, oh, Wimberley's going to run away with this. Wimberley's going to run away with this. I don't think that's the case, man.
Yeah.
They play a lot better defense than Ingleside does. They're going to put up a bigger fight and that's not taken away from this Ingleside team that played Wimberley.
A great year. I mean, for them to go 11-2 was a tremendous year. And under first-year head coach Travis Crispin, that was a fantastic season for Ingleside. I agree. I think Sinton's going to. I mean, I don't think it's crazy to say Wimberley's the favorite in that game. They've obviously got the pedigree, and they're the defending regional champs and played for a state championship last year. But I can see a path to victory for Sinton in that game. They're going to have to play well, and they're going to have to cause some mistakes. But I think there's definitely a path to victory. There's sometimes you get to this point in the playoffs where teams are kind of happy to be there, but you really, if you're being realistic, you don't really see a path to victory. But I think Sinton can absolutely win this game. I'm not going to pick them. I'm picking Wimberley to win the game, but I can definitely see where Sinton. I wouldn't be shocked if Sinton pulled the upset, if that makes sense.
So I'm gonna do Justin a favor here. I'm gonna ask you. I don't know if you know a lot about this one. What happened to Columbus?
I think they ran into I think Lorena is the hottest team in the state right now. They're on a roll, and Columbus jumped out 14-0, and I thought, okay, here we go. Columbus was my pick to play for the state championship against Malakoff in 3A Division I. And they were up 14-0 early, and I thought, okay, here we go. And Lorena, and they got a running back named Braylon Henry, and they got a wide receiver, Jaden Porter, who's committed to Baylor. And Braylon Henry has just been unbelievable. And there's kind of some synergy there. His dad, who's a Texas High School Football Hall of Famer, was the running back at Lorena in the late 80s when they won a state championship.
Oh, really?
And now it's kind of come full circle. He actually tied his dad's single season touchdown record last week with 41 touchdowns in a season. So
wow.
They're playing really good football. They're hot right now. They're going to have to play Franklin again. And, it's tough to beat a team twice in the same season, especially when they're as evenly matched as Franklin and Lorena are. Lorena needed a field goal the last play of the game to beat Franklin in the first meeting. So it's going to be tough for Lorena to pull it off twice because they're so evenly matched.
Quinton, you got anything before I bring the next game up?
I think a lot of people, maybe were surprised with Port Lavaca, Calhoun, and Alice.
That's what I was about to bring up. Yeah.
Was there anything that, did you think going into that game? I think recent history has indicated that Alice has struggled with Calhoun and what Whitaker does in that offense. And it kind of reared its head again. I know it's a different coaching staff, but, it kind of felt like some of the same difficulties Alice wasn't able to move the ball like they had in the recent weeks. And just, once a Calhoun team can get on top of you and kind of allow it to dictate the pace, that's kind of what happened. Did that game surprise you at all, Matt?
So when I was picking that game, I had it in the back of my head that Alice has had trouble with Calhoun. For whatever reason, that's been their bugaboo. Calhoun has just been a team that's been a thorn in Alice's side, along with Cal Allen, obviously, who's been a thorn in everyone's side for a long time. Alice got over the Cal Allen hump this year, and I thought, well, new coaching staff, new attitude, maybe Alice can get over the hump, and it just didn't materialize. It basically, the same game played out that almost played out last year in the first round of the playoffs, and they played. Calhoun got up early and just kind of sat on their neck and never let them breathe. And that's what you're right. That's what Calhoun does. If you're going to beat Calhoun, you got to get up on them early and make them play from behind. That's what you got to do against Calhoun. And Alice couldn't do it, and Calhoun played their game and kind of just suffocated them a little bit.
So what do have you seen Davenport this season?
I saw them in College Station in 7-on-7 when they made state 7-on-7. I got a good look at them there, and they got a lot of good looking kids. They're impressive on the hoof. if you're just basing it off who looks better at getting off the bus, you're probably going to take Davenport for sure. But Calhoun is very scrappy. They're quicker than you think, and that offense is the great equalizer. If you're not ready to play that offense, you're going to be in trouble. So Davenport's going to have to play disciplined defense. They're going to play old school assignment football, and I think they can. I think a lot of times Calhoun kind of runs up. They hit a wall at some point where they just run into a team that's just too athletic and too big for them, especially as you go deeper in the playoffs.
Yeah,
that happened when they made that deep run in old 5A back. They made a semifinal run, and they just ran into somebody from Houston who was just so athletic and so big that they just couldn't handle it anymore. And we're starting to get so close to that point of no return for Calhoun. I think Davenport's going to win the game. I think it's going to be pretty close. But I'll say this: the winner, whoever wins the Davenport-Calhoun game, looking at it from a statewide perspective, they're going to be a big underdog against Region 3 because you're talking about teams from Deep East Texas, in Kilgore and Tyler Chapel Hill, who have Division I type talent at multiple positions. That's going to be hard for either of those teams to overcome in a semifinal.
So here's what raises my eyebrow about that game. They have one common opponent, and it was Burnett. Calhoun comes off of beating Burnett 42-14 in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Burnett beat Davenport 41-34.
Yeah, and I think that was Burnett and Davenport was, I think, middle late season. Yeah. So things. I mean, we're in December now, so things have changed a little bit. I do think that win for Calhoun, that win for Calhoun over Burnett was really the eyebrow raiser for me when they dominated Burnett like they did. That was like, okay, Calhoun's primed for a little bit of a run here. So every football's about matchup, and every matchup's a little bit different. And I just think Davenport, if their defense can come to play, I would give them the edge over Calhoun in this one. But this is another one. It's not a big margin. I mean, I think I picked Davenport in my pick 'em by like 6. So a Calhoun win wouldn't shock me.
Wouldn't shock you.
No.
It's kind of one of those weird situations that Miller's in again this week also. You play 13, 14 games and you don't see an offense like that. I think it's so different. You look at what Miller went through. They were 12-0 in 2019. Then they go to Class 4A, and all of a sudden you have Beeville, you have Port Lavaca, you have Cal Allen in your district, completely different than what they ever saw in 5A Division 1. And, they struggled at times. They gave up a lot of points. They had to win games in a shootout in those years, even when they had Andrew Body, as a senior, before they got back into the playoffs and got to play, spread teams that they were used to. And now Miller's kind of back into that boat again. They played 12, 13 games against spread teams, and now they're going to hit an offense that they hadn't seen a lot. And they struggled a little bit with, during their 2 years in 4A.
Yeah, it's always a funny matchup, and it's kind of feast or famine, right? When you get to this point, when you play those kind of offenses, either they're going to run up and down the field on you, or you're gonna completely shut them down and blow them out. I think it's going to be kind of one of the two, feast or famine, when you play those option type offenses.
Yeah. Hey, just Silas, you're absolutely correct. I'm just answering one of the shout outs on here. Yeah, Kamari, we had Kamari listed as one of our top 5 running backs in the Coastal Bend Crossroads area. He was only second to Joseph Dodds, who's a 3-star going to Baylor right now. So yeah, he had a heck of a season this year. And Turbo kind of, I think we knew a little bit about Turbo before the season started, Quinton, a little bit. But
it was interesting.
I don't think we knew he was going to be this good.
I was there the first practice of 2 days. Midler did Midnight Madness for the first time. So I was out there at Buck Stadium on the first day of practice, and Coach Evans pulls me aside and he says, "Yeah, we're going to play Corey at receiver more this year, and he's going to still have some running back carries, but we're going to go with Broderick, and we're going to let Corey play at receiver." And I was kind of surprised because Corey Holmes was so explosive last year. It's weird. He didn't score as many touchdowns as you would have expected as someone as explosive as he was, but he was a good running back last year. But they decided, obviously Lonnie Adkism graduates, moves on, and they're trying to find a way to maximize who's on their offense. So they give Corey an opportunity out there. He's turned into an amazing receiver for them. He's done big things. Caught the game-winning touchdown last week. He's had 3 or 4 touchdowns at least 2 or 3 times this year in a game. But man, Broderick Taylor has just gone out there, and I think I had statted this, that going into last week, he had at least a 52-yard run in 5 consecutive games. I mean, that's just like, and then at least a 70-yard run in like 4 out of 5. I mean, it's just he has that shake. He has that ability to just get out. And, he's, I know he still has a year to go, but he's definitely one of the best running backs I've seen in this area, at least in a while. And he's super talented. And, he gives them a different dimension. They can sit there and they can go lean on you in a way that they couldn't before. They had to go win. They had to go throw the ball a million times. With the exception of the LBJ game, where I think Andrew Body ran the ball like 40 times in that game, that quarterfinal that they lost. But other than that, like, they haven't had somebody that they could really lean on in the backfield, and that just adds so much to what they can do.
I know he impressed the heck out of me when I came down for the Vets game. He had a monster game in the Vets game, and really impressed me. And Quinton's right, man. I think to have that kind of running game, especially in December, is so vital that you can line up. It's not only vital when you're trying to get ahead, but when you get a lead late in ball games, putting teams away, being able to run the football is vital. And if you're up by 10 points in the fourth quarter with 6 minutes left in the game, you to be able to run the football, get first downs, and kind of salt the game away is really vital come playoff time. I don't have any worries about Miller scoring points against Vets on Friday night down in Brownsville. I think the key matchup again is Vets defense and that triple option, and trying to get Vets behind the chains. Trying to get Brownsville Vets into those obvious passing downs. Winning on first and second down, and putting them in obvious. Brownsville Vets can throw, but they're successful throwing when they surprise you. When they do that play action on 2nd and 3 and hit you with the deep ball. They're not built to convert 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, those kind of things. So that's going to be the key matchup is Miller, their defense first and second down, winning those early downs and putting Brownsville Vets in those obvious passing downs.
One of the things that really has surprised me how much this has happened. I've seen, 5 or 6 Miller games this season, and how many times they've converted on 3rd and 9, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 10, handing the ball off to Broderick Taylor. Like, I think it really, this is something that Justin Evans has preached forever, is like, pick your poison. We're ready. We're willing to run the ball if you're going to just drop everybody back. But now it really is, it's not just, it's just not just words, it's actuality that with the way Miller plays this year. And, in talking to Miller this week, it feels like they understand how much Brownsville Vets forcing turnovers has made a difference last week and the last couple of weeks for them. And they feel like if they can just hold on to the ball, play clean, and not give away possessions, they feel really strongly about their chances going Friday night. And, that's one of the things. I think you look at Trevor Long, I think he has 56-3 touchdown to interception ratio this year, which for as much as they throw the ball, it's pretty impressive that you haven't turned the ball over that much. And if they can hold on to the ball and not turn things over, like you said, it's hard not to see Miller scoring a lot of points. It's just, what is their defense going to be able to do on the other side of it?
So a couple more games I want to talk about before we wrap up today. Holiday and Jacksboro. We brought up Holiday last week just because of the interesting connection there. Who's there now, right? Alice's former coach is over at Holiday, and they're playing in the 3rd round this week, and they lose to Jacksboro 49-48. Jacksboro, I think they were district champ for the first time since 2019 and undefeated for the first time in like 20 years. I think so. Jacksboro's got a pretty special team they put together.
Jacksboro's got a good ball club. They got a wide receiver named Kaleem Howard, who's committed to SFA, which at that level, have 3 Division II ball. To have a guy even committed to FCS is pretty special. They got a really good quarterback, Lando Belcher. Holiday actually had this game won. There was a real controversial, I want to say it was a roughing the passer penalty that got called on Holiday right at the end of regulation that kind of extended a Jacksboro drive. Jacksboro was able to go down and tie the game up. And then Holiday scored in overtime to go up 48-41. Jacksboro scored to make it 48-47 and decided to go for 2 in the first overtime to win the game. So, good season for Holiday. They started out a little slow offensively as they were trying to learn a new offense because they went from a very run-heavy system under the previous head coach to a little bit more of a spread type, power spread look under Coach Atwood. It took them a little while to adjust, but they had a great year. They went, I want to say 11-2 this year. So a good year for them. The issue for Jacksboro now is they got to run up against Gunner this week. And Gunner is just Gunner's a different animal in 3A Division II, man. They only won 45-0 last
45
week.
nothing against Comanche. Yeah.
Which, like, the week before they won like 83-6.
They scored 83 points. Yeah, the week before.
So it's, pretty impressive stuff from Gunner. They're probably on a collision course with Canadian there in the 3A Division II top side of the bracket in the semifinals.
Who is
my friends in San Angelo wouldn't like to hear that.
The Canadians got to get through Wall first, but I think we're setting up for Gunner Canadian part like 50. They've played like every year in the semifinals the past 8 or 9 years.
So it's interesting.
Go ahead, Quinton. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to bring up, I think the last time I saw Canadian play, they played Refugio in the state championship game at NRG, and last year, Jason Herring had a kind of a little bit of a diatribe about how tough it is to play Wednesday, Thursday for Class 2A, and basically he has to go all the way from Refugio to Arlington, and team right there in Region 1 can make a day trip to Arlington, and how much of a challenge it was. Well, when the Canadian went all the way to NRG, I mean, that's about as beaten down of a Refugio team as I've ever seen. I didn't see Refugio versus Shiner a couple years ago, but Canadian is just, what they were able to do and what that program has done over the last 4 or 5 years. It's it's no shame to lose to them because they're flat good.
No,
I think Canadian had a 11-hour road trip. I think for that game,
it was a long one, because somebody brought that up last year.
11 hours. So I did not agree with Coach Herring's comments after losing to Hawley. I mean, I think Coach Herring had a misunderstanding of the rules, because the UIL does. I think he thought they could practice on Sunday, and they couldn't, because the UIL gives you a Sunday exception if you play the state championship game on Wednesday night, which ironically, if Refugio was to play in a state championship this year, they would get to practice on Sunday because they would play on Wednesday. Because I want to say after the Timpson win in the semifinals last year, Coach Herring was caught on video giving his team the day off. And I think he gave his guys the day off because he thought he could practice on Sunday and didn't realize that he couldn't practice on Sunday. So I think that's why he was kind of upset, because I don't think he had a full understanding of the rules and who could practice on Sunday and who couldn't. So that being said, I it was ironic that Canadian a few years earlier did take a much longer road trip and put a pretty significant beat down on Refugio. That Canadian team, if we're talking best 2A teams of all time, that Canadian team is probably up there as one of the greatest 2A Division I teams of all time, because they were a machine. That was a good Refugio team, a really good Refugio team, and Canadian beat them by 40, I think. It was a blowout. So,
and then the last game I want to talk about is one that I've been hyping up for a while. I think since round 1 of the playoffs, and that's hang on, sorry, Poth Tidehaven 4. I've been hoping for this one ever since the season started, and it's here, right? It's here. Common opponent, East Bernard. Right, and they both beat them by the same margin, and they both beat them almost the same way. Last drive of the ball game. Yeah. Tidehaven wins 15-7. Poth wins 14-7. I've seen them both play. Poth's got some big kids. They've got some good playmakers. Tidehaven's got Joseph Dawes. They've got a very strong defense. They're very fast. I don't even think the points they gave up last week were on the defense. I know the week before they weren't. They've given up less than 50 points all season.
I'm going with defense here, and I've been big on Tidehaven all year. I'm leaning to Tidehaven to get their a little matter of revenge against Poth this week. Poth's a great team. Coach Jeff Luna over there has done a heck of a job with that program. Got into a state championship game last year. But Tidehaven, my guy Coach Lucio's his ball club is different this year. I'm going to go with the boys from the killer, as they say.
Oh man, they are bad. Have you seen them, Quinton?
No.
They're bad. They're fast. They're big. They're athletic, and man, they mesh well. I don't know what it is. Their defense coordinator is a young cat. He's actually from the Valley. He's got a sweet mullet. I had to sneak a picture of him while I was on the sidelines a couple of weeks ago, and I had to send it to Spud because we love mullets, and it's glorious, dude. But he's a young cat, and I think he's trying. I don't know, but he's a young guy, and he's calling that defense, and I think they call them the children of the corn, that defense. But Yeah, man. I've got Tidehaven in this one, dude. I'm an honorary Pirate and a Tiger just because I followed them this postseason. They've both been very nice to me. But
That game's in Victoria, right? Are they playing in Victoria?
they are playing in. No, it is not
I
Victoria.
thought it was Victoria Friday night. So I know
Maybe it
Refugio's
is.
playing. I know Refugio's playing in Victoria
Maybe it
Thursday
is
night.
Friday. Joey, you're in here. Is it Victoria on Friday?
I want to say it's. Let me look at.
Victoria.
I
Yeah.
do the pairings, so I should know this, right? I do. I
Yeah.
put together the pairings for.
Yeah. Victoria. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in Victoria Friday night. So you got two really good football games in Victoria this
Back
week
to
with
back. Yeah.
Refugio and Ganado, and then Tidehaven and Post. So Victoria is the place to be this week down in South Texas.
Yeah. And I get to miss it all. I get to watch a Thursday night game and I miss Friday night's game. We have our company Christmas party Friday night.
Oh man,
I was hoping.
You're gonna have your phone out streaming games.
I was hoping that
You're gonna stream the Miller game, the Miller Mets game.
that they would be on Saturday.
Yeah,
Really,
most Saturday kind of in recent years because the UIL has the single site, championship games, which we talked about. 6As are kind of the only ones who play on Saturday. You'll get your rare 5A games sprinkled in on Saturday, like South Oak Cliff and Lovejoy are playing Saturday, and I think Piper and Alamo Heights played Saturday last week.
yeah.
But for the most part, Saturday is reserved for 6As. You rarely see anybody below 6A playing on Saturday in the playoffs.
Yeah. But,
And then in 2A, you're already starting to get that shift to the Thursday games.
Thursday nights.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, because the 2A Division I championship game. So here's a funny story. So Garrison and Timpson, who the winner of that game would play the winner of Refugio and Ganado, they had to move their game from Thursday night to Friday because there's supposed to be bad weather, lightning. Storms.
You tweeted that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, storms in East Texas, and they really, really wanted to play Thursday because they didn't want to have Refugio having an extra day, or Refugio or Ganado, to have an extra day to prepare for them. But they just had to because it was either move the game way west into like Dallas, which is funny because Timpson and Garrison are deep East Texas, and they're like 7 miles apart from each other. It'd have been funny if they'd had to play in Dallas on Thursday night. So they decided instead to play Friday night at Stephen F. Austin and just deal with having one less day to prepare.
How's Terry playing this season? I know he's missed most of the regular season.
So Bussy actually he missed the first 3 games, but he played in the 4th game against Dangerfield a little bit, and then he's basically played ever since. Played since then. He had I'll tell you what is. So they beat Honeygrove last week, 68-7. They beat Honeygrove last week, and Bussy had. Listen to this stat line. I'll tell you what Terry Bussy's stat line was. It's crazy. I got it on my phone here. It got sent to me. Terry Bussy in last week's game was 14 of 19 passing for 273 yards and 4 touchdowns. He had 8 carries for 166 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had 4 tackles and a pick 6. So 7 touchdowns. Just another day at the office for Terry Bussy.
Day.
Yeah.
If you guys have not seen
it feels like if Region 3 doesn't get it done this year, it's never going to happen, man.
This Timpson team is now they had a little bit of a loss. One of their best players, the other Division I kid they have, whose name is Vosky Howard. He's committed to Louisiana Lafayette. He's not with the team right now. He got in this. There's something happened off the field where he's not with the team. He's been out for he's been out since like week 8. So they haven't had him. But they still got Bussy. Yeah, so they still got Bussy, and they still got a lot of other good players. This is kind of Timpson's year. If they don't do it this year with Bussy, they're you're right, Q. If Region 3 doesn't do it this year, they may never do it. So, it's kind of one of those things. So,
well, guys, that's all I got, man. I appreciate y'all coming on, man, especially such last minute. I reached out to these guys yesterday. Seeing if they would be willing to come on and help me out today, and they were more than welcome to. So thank you guys again. We really appreciate it.
You took me out for pizza, man. I can't leave you hanging, man. You took me to Up Dog Pizza in Odom, man. Come on.
Yeah, Quinton. Next time you're here in town, Quinton, you could cover an Odom game, then we'll get you out to Up Dog as well. But
that's good stuff.
Where are you going to be, Matt?
Thursday, I will be in Iowa Park, which is up near Wichita Falls. For Albany and Collinsville. I know Q, that's some West Texas stuff there with Albany. I know he's familiar with Albany and what they bring to the table. 2A Division II. Friday, I'm going to Forney, which is east of Dallas, to watch Malakoff and Winsboro, 2 undefeated teams. They're in 3A Division I, Region 2. And then Saturday, I'm going to head down to Houston to watch Fort Bend Hightower and Humble Summer Creek. They're playing in Cy-Fair. So that should be a great game.
All right, guys. Again, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for watching today. I know you guys missed Justin. Now Justin's gonna have some big shoes to fill next week when he comes back, because you guys did more than your share to cover for the
getting to talk
big
football
guy.
getting to talk football with Q and you is always a pleasure. Appreciate it,
guys. Thanks again for coming on, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all next week.